Guys, how's it going? It's Al. Week 4 on DraftKings just started. We're going to build a lineup from a tournament perspective. We're going to work on a double stack and a bring back, as well as a secondary stack. It is a kind of a weird week. There are 12 games on the main slate, and a lot of superstar players are not on this slate. The Dolphins and the Bengals play on Thursday night. The Chiefs and the Buccaneers play on Sunday night. And the Monday night game is Rams and 49ers. So showdown's going to be lit. And let's see if we can find some stuff on the main slate that has really high ceilings that we can try and attack. So let's go.
He's a legend.
The Smiz Gang Listener League is up for week 4. Go to smizzle.tv/links. That'll take you to the link tree that has links to the Listener League, the charity fundraiser we're doing, the Discord, the streams on Twitch, and everything else. Go get in the Listener League and get in there early. They made it bigger, guys. Look, it's 4,500 entries this week. It's still just $10. It's still 3 max entries, and there is still absolutely no rake. 10% of that $45,000 will go to first place. 10% of first place will go to 10th place. The Smiz Gang Listener League is the best tournament that exists on DraftKings, and you should get in it. It's filled early, 2 straight weeks. It filled in week 2 on Saturday night, and it filled on like Friday evening in week 3. I would not be shocked, even with the 500 more seats, if this filled early again. So reserve your seats now. You can only get 3 of them. Get in there and I'll shout out the winners for week 2 on the Fantasy Football channel, which you can find in that link tree also, and the week 3 recap. If you want to see how I did in high stakes, how my Millionaire Maker lineups looked, and who won the cage match between myself and Mike Wright, all of that information exists. Here's the week 2 recap right here. You can go to the Al Smizzle Fantasy Football channel, smizzle.tv/ff. It also is in the link tree, smizzle.tv/links. So go check that out. And I apologize for my voice. I'm a little bit sick. My kids were sick last week, and now me and my wife are a little bit sick. I'm fighting through it, trying to get the content out for you guys as best I can. So let's take a look at this slate. We have Buffalo against Baltimore, 2 of the best offenses in the league, and 2 defenses that are completely hobbled for the last 2 weeks. And look, from a selfish fantasy football daily fantasy standpoint, I hope all of the players who were injured in week 3 on Baltimore and Buffalo's defenses take an extra week to rest and recover so that they can come back strong and healthy in week 5 and beyond. I don't want players to be injured. I want y'all to rest. See, I'm trying to be a really good human and help everybody get better and get healthy, and let the guys who should be selling insurance and cars, let them play cornerback, because that makes for really fun fantasy football. Cleveland plays Atlanta. Ew. Washington up against Dallas. What is the total in that game? That game has a total of 42.5. A lot of really low totals on this slate. Seattle plays Detroit. Detroit just lost DeAndre Swift, so Jamal Williams going to be pumped into a little bit higher volume here. This one has a total of 50. Lions favored by 6.5 in that one. Houston up against the Chargers. 5.5 point favorites are the Chargers. Total of 46 there. Tennessee goes to Indy. 2 big time running backs facing off against each other there. Giants and Chicago, total of 39. Yuck. Philadelphia against Jacksonville. Don't mind that one if I do. Pittsburgh against the Jets. Carolina squares off against Arizona. And then we have like 3 afternoon games. And they're all pretty low total, well, like average to low totals. Carolina, Arizona, New England, Green Bay, and Denver, Las Vegas. That Panthers Cardinals game has a total of 44. Patriots Packers is 41, and the Packers are favored by 11. And the Broncos up against the Raiders with a total of 44 in that game as the 2 latest games on the slate. So let's go look through the quarterbacks. Josh Allen's great. 3 straight games of over 30 DraftKings points. That's just absurd. The last couple of years, the last 2 years specifically, he has had the most 30 plus DraftKings games of any quarterback out there. Mahomes, I believe, is second. Lamar Jackson has his share of them as well, but he missed half the season last season, which is holding his numbers down. They square off against each other this week, and if both of these defenses are still hobbled in week 3, we're going to have ourselves a situation where neither offense can be stopped by a normal defense, and neither defense can stop even a normal offense, which could lead to the most massive scoreline on this slate. Fortunately for us, I mean, the game has a total of 51.5. Okay, so Ravens being a pass over expectation team and the Bills being a pass over expectation, there could be a ton of plays run in this game. But 8,400 on DraftKings for a quarterback is restrictive. Also at wide receiver, they priced up Stephon Diggs to 8,400 as well. Lamar Jackson at 8,300 is restrictive, and at tight end, Mark Andrews is 7,100, 1,500 more than the next highest player. So at least the pricing is right that if you go after double stacking these two players in this game, it's going to put you in a position where you're going to have to find massive value, which may occur. We may find some sub 4K wide receivers to attack by the end of the week. Last week we had Mac Hollins pop up. We had Devontae Parker pop up. There's been guys that are, let's say, less than 4,500 and sometimes extreme values from 3,900 and down that pop up later in the week. So a couple of other guys that we can think about. Obviously, Jalen Hurts is a cover boy. I'm going to build a Jalen Hurts lineup here for this week, but let's look at some other guys. Kyler Murray, he's throwing the ball a ton, got 300 yards, 0 touchdowns, not really running the ball a lot. So he's got to connect for passing touchdowns for him to pay off. I'm not saying it can't happen, right? It's definitely something that can happen. But usually when a player does not perform like these other players, you see his price come down. But because of the fact that he has got this reputation as a heavy running quarterback, then all of a sudden his price has stayed high. So now, like, Kyler Murray's opportunities, like, yeah, he could have a game where he runs it 10 times for 60 yards and a touchdown and throws for 300, but like the way they are utilizing him right now, those opportunities from a percent perspective really aren't all that high. He can still connect for touchdown passes, but with Zach Ertz being what he is at this point in his career, even though the usage is great, it's tough to get to him and expect that. Marquise getting peppered with targets, Dortch getting peppered. It's not an offense that's lending itself to 5 touchdown passes, but games like that can come out of nowhere, and maybe it happens against Carolina in Carolina. Herbert dealt pretty well with the ribs, but like not well enough as they got throttled by Jacksonville. The Chargers can't run the football, like not even a little bit. They have like one run over 10 yards through this entire season, now dealing with Justin Herbert, who's got some issues with his ribs, with the broken rib cartilage, and he's got the happy juice last week to allow him to even be on the field. I don't know. Maybe Keenan Allen comes back. Maybe that makes him a little bit more efficient, but like you've got to hope that he heals and is in less pain, because the twisting and torquing that you need through the midsection and through your core to be able to do what he does consistently and efficiently, it's putting him in really bad spots. And they don't have players that can separate down the field. Josh Palmer's fine. Mike Williams is a good receiver, but like isn't a big separator. He's a really big contested catch guy. And we've spoken about on the channel before how when players are big contested catch guys, it means that they're in situations where the catch is contested, which means that they're not separating from the defensive back, which is why I'd rather get players like, Deontay Johnson, who's a great separator, or Justin Jefferson, who's a great separator, as opposed to somebody like Mike Williams. Mike Williams can make big plays, but he requires those plays and they have to be tough. Russ Wilson, we were hoping that they'd let Russ cook, but it's starting to look like Russ is cooked, and that's not a good thing from a football perspective. For as long as they have him signed, Hackett looks completely overmatched as a head coach at this point, and Russ has not looked good. On Sunday Night Football, he looked awful, and they had all of their weapons. He has Jerry Jeudy back. Cortland Sutton's doing fine. This offense is just not putting up points, like at all. 11, 16, and 16. Maybe that changes against Las Vegas. We'll find out. But right now, it's ugly. And this could be a situation where everybody is leaving, where you want to get on to Russ Wilson as a double stack, as a contrarian play in tournaments. It's definitely going to be contrarian. You will have that late opportunity if the early chalk fails. If everybody, if things don't go the way people expect in the early games, and they don't have really high scores because everybody's going to pile into the 1 p.m. kickoff games, for me 10 a.m. That would allow you to differentiate. Aaron Rodgers, we have to wait and see who's there for him. He's playing well, but this is going to be a team that's built on those two running backs, and they're trying to run it 35 plus times a game. They should be able to against New England, especially in the absence of Mac Jones. This is going to be a defensive struggle, and one where they're just going to I think that they're going to try and operate. Now, that does not mean that Aaron Rodgers can't have a ridiculously efficient first half and throw for a few touchdown passes when he sees opportunities to audible at the line, or they take shots off of their running game, pulling safeties up to the line, where you could have that Lamar Jackson 2019 type passing game. I don't mean Lamar Jackson like he's going to run for a bunch of yards, but Lamar Jackson had a few games where he threw 20 passes and threw for 4 touchdowns with like 3 or 4 of them in the first half and just run away from the team in the second half. Certainly possible. So if you wanted to bank on that, I get it. But for me, this guy's really good, despite what people had told you about him not being really good. Like, we're at the point now where if the people that around you or that you listen to or that prognosticate or that talk or pundits, whatever you want to call them, if they have told you for 2 years now that Jalen Hurts is not a good quarterback, and they told you prior that Tua Tagovailoa was not a good quarterback, you should probably stop listening to people like that, whether they're your friends or whether they're people that are putting out content, because guess what? These guys are fine. And sometimes they're actually good. Jalen Hurts, with this improved group of pass catchers around him, they spent draft capital 2 years ago on Devontae Smith. He had a fantastic game in week 3. They brought in AJ Brown. That really opens everything up. Bringing an alpha in and moving Devontae Smith to the other side and still having a very, very efficient tight end when it comes to getting open and making catches puts you in a ridiculously good spot as a quarterback. Not every quarterback is an elevator of talent, and I get that, right? So if they're not going to be an elevator of talent, maybe he's not an elevator of talent. That's for sure. From a fantasy perspective, he's excellent. The only 2 quarterbacks in the league right now whose teams are 3-0 are the Philadelphia Eagles and the Miami Dolphins. So, like, stop saying they're bad. You don't have to be the best. They may not be the number 1, 2, or 3 quarterback in the league from a talent perspective. You don't have to be. You just got to be good enough. You just got to be able to deliver the ball to the players around you who are really good. And Jalen Hurts does that. And we get that rushing floor, right? So, like, look at how many times he's run the ball this year. 17, 11, 9. You're going to get like a floor of 7 or 8 rushing attempts out of Jalen Hurts. Now, he has averaged this year below what he has averaged on a per rush basis. The previous year and then plus, he started like the last few games of 2020. He'd averaged like 6.5 yards per attempt when running the football. He is down to like 5 this year. So, like, if he runs it 8 times, that's 40 yards on average, and he's averaged a half a touchdown this year, 1 touchdown a game, but on all of his starts, about a half a touchdown a game. From the rushing alone, you're getting this massive floor, and then we have this increased ceiling with 2 games above 300 yards with 30 plus attempts in each game. That's more than enough catches, especially on DraftKings, to be able to find 2 pass catchers who work with him. Now, for the sake of this lineup to make it work and where I want to go with the rest of it, I'm not going to be able to fit AJ Brown. I think he's just fine. I would, if I'm going to make 10 or 15 or 25 Jalen Hurts lineups, however many you're going to make, yeah, I'd probably try and find a way to build one to get AJ Brown in there. But the secondary stack that I want to attack this week keeps me from being able to do that. And I think that there's enough volume in this offense, even though AJ Brown is the alpha, the other 2 guys are not priced up enough. So I'm going to take the $1,600 discount and go down to Devontae Smith, not expecting 12 targets, but expecting more around 6, 7, 8 targets from him, as well as really good end zone usage, 3 end zone targets this week. Capitalize on that with 1 touchdown. As everybody moves over to AJ Brown, Devontae Smith gets one-on-one coverage against a secondary cornerback. He is too good of a route runner and too talented a pass catcher to not have explosion games in that scenario. So really good floor for the price at sub 6K and really high ceiling against Jacksonville in this spot. And then I get to fill in my tight end spot with Dallas Goedert. Now, there's other routes that you can go. I do not think that he has the ceiling of somebody like Mark Andrews, but he is like a little, like he's like 60% of the price of Mark Andrews. So it allows me some salary relief where a 15-point fantasy day is a massive win. He's going to have to get a little bit more volume. I expect volume to roll off of AJ Brown as he is now going to start getting doubled more often, to go towards Devontae Smith and to go towards Dallas Goedert, as well as having a spy. They just can't cover everything. This offense looks really, really dangerous. So this is my Jalen Hurts double. If you want to go with Smith and Brown, if you want to go with Goddard and Brown, I'm fine with that. They're both fine. Looking at a bring back player on the other side, Christian Kirk, 6,600, seeing an absolute mountain of targets, getting a lot of points per game. Love him. But I'm not going to be able to afford him at 6,600. I still want to find a value play, and I think that we have a couple on this team at wide receiver. Marvin Jones saw a good amount of end zone targets this week. I'm not going to him, but I'm going back to Zay Jones. This is a lot of targets. 24 targets through 3 weeks. We're averaging 8 targets a game for Zay Jones. Now, look, maybe he's Brett Saberhagen, and on odd weeks, he's going to get a lot of targets, and on even weeks, he's not going to get any targets, but I'm willing to bet that that's not a real thing, and they should be throwing as they project to be playing from behind in this game. The Eagles and the Jaguars have a total of, God, I can't see it. I can't read my own writing, but the Eagles are favored by 6.5 points, which means the Jaguars are going to be in passing situations a lot. This game does have shootout potential. The Jaguars have a good enough offense, an efficient enough quarterback, can establish the run a little bit, as we've seen James Robinson take over that RB1 position and catch passes, as well as having a pass catching running back. They should be able to move the ball with as varied as this offense is. It doesn't rely on one guy. They have a lot of solid professional pass catchers, and as good as Philly's defense is, I am buying into this Jaguars offense. I have been buying into it all offseason. They've shown me nothing that says they are not going to put up 20 plus points on a most week basis, and maybe Philadelphia shuts them down, but you can get there on volume, specifically at this $4,200 price point, which now leads me to a secondary stack. So I've got upside in this spot with end zone targets from 2 value plays with Jones and Goddard, which now leads me to the secondary stack that we want to really go and attack. So it's from this game right here. But if you're still watching the video, take a couple of seconds and drop a like on the video. I would really appreciate it. Thank you guys for being here. Subscribe to the channel, ring the notifications bell. As you know, if you've been here before, I come out with like 8 videos a week here on the main channel. I don't want you to miss any of them. So subscribe to the channel, make sure that you ring the notifications bell, and go to the Al Smizzle Fantasy Football channel. Al Smizzle Fantasy Football has the recap video. So if you want to know how I did in the previous week, our recap video, which used to be on Al Smizzle Games, is now on the Fantasy Football channel. 6 more videos a week on the Fantasy Football channel as well. Smizzle.tv/links has that. Smizzle.tv/FF will take you directly there. That will be right down below in 2 places, in the description and in the pinned comment. You can find the link to the link tree or the Fantasy Football channel. The recap video for week 3, by the time you're watching this video, will already be posted. So if you want to see how week 3 went, go check out that recap video. Go to smizzle.tv/FF, and let's get back to the show. Buffalo and Baltimore, they're really good. I like this offense. I understand wanting to go get Steph Diggs. We're going to have to see what happened in this. He got injured. He was cramping late. He went back in the game. We'll see. Like the Bills ran like 90 plays in Florida, in humidity, in a lot of heat. And their offensive players and defense players were just dropping like flies. They did not drink enough pickle juice. They were not ready for the conditions. And we're in this spot. So like Diggs, yes. Can't afford him for this lineup. Gabe Davis, I can't afford. Davis did not do well in week 3. Missed week 2 with an injury, dropped a sure touchdown, and then dropped another pass late in the game. Could have had a much bigger game. So the game log watchers are going to see this and should theoretically shy off of him. This is a ridiculous spot if all of Baltimore's cornerbacks are still hurt, with 3 of them dealing with injuries. We'll monitor it as the week goes on. I'll take the value going down to Gabe Davis at 6,600. I'm also going to look at Baltimore's side, and I can't afford Mark Andrews right now. I don't want to go with 2 tight ends, although Andrews is fine, specifically with Kelsey off the slate. Andrews is like the only 25 plus reasonable. I'm not saying that another tight end can't get to 25 plus, but like Andrews is the most likely from a probability standpoint. His ceiling has a much higher chance of getting to 25 plus than any other tight end. Another one can get there, but from a probabilistic point of view, not as often as somebody with Mark Andrews' mountain of targets. 31 targets through the first 2 weeks, 3 touchdowns through the first 2 weeks, lots of yards per route run for him, downfield targets as well. All consistently leads the league in terms of air yards at tight end. Love Mark Andrews. I'm going to have a lot of him this weekend, specifically in the Millionaire Maker, where he can separate you from the other lineups that are out there. But for this particular lineup, I want to go after Rashad Bateman, who has looked really, really, really solid anytime they get his hands on the ball. And where Buffalo is going to be hurting this week is at defensive back. If it's anything like last week, if those injuries were like they were missing 4 defensive starters and 2 of their defensive backfield, Rashad Bateman could absolutely eat here at 5,600. The upside is tremendous, not just from a yards after the catch standpoint, but from a downfield threat standpoint, with J.K. Dobbins getting back healthy, you're going to have to at least pay attention to the run more often for Baltimore. They have not been running the ball a lot through 3 weeks, but with Dobbins now back and active, with as explosive as he is, that gives you something as a DC that you have to worry about a lot more than when it was like, you know, Justice Hill or Mike Davis or whoever else, right? So now that they have a more impactful running back running behind that line, you have a situation where Rashad Bateman is going to get loose more often than he's not. So plugging Bateman into the flex here, now I have two of the highest totals as a double stack and a bring back and a secondary stack with one of the most explosive games on the slate, leading me to the running back position. Jonathan Taylor, we'll talk about him. Clearly a 5-box running back this week. You know he's going to be on the video. The Colts are favored. They're playing at home. He's going to get usage in the passing game, like way more usage than he used to. 7 targets in week 1, 5 targets in week 3. This could be another good spot for him going up against Tennessee, who Josh Jacobs looked very good against last week. Tennessee, you're not going to get a lot of plays, but Jonathan Taylor is a solid premium play. Christian McCaffrey, once again, playing like 85% of the snaps for his team, getting 85% of the running back touches, had 100 yards rushing for 2 straight weeks, has not been as involved in the passing game as we had hoped in previous years, but the touchdowns and I would hope the targets are coming with as inefficient as this Panthers offense has been. It's got to flow through McCaffrey and then outside to guys like DJ Moore and Anderson, and not the other way around. Saquon Barkley plays on Monday night. We will see how much volume he gets, but 25 opportunities in pretty much every game. Aaron Jones looks like another solid play this week in the position that they are, as well as AJ Dillon in the same backfield. If you want to go for the cheaper option, that's fine with me. But we have 2 things that we have to talk about. DeAndre Swift, shoulder sprain. He's not going to play. He's going to be out possibly. I would not be shocked if they rest him through their bye week, which I think is week 6, which means he doesn't come back for a few weeks, which means that Jamal Williams, thankfully they priced him up so he's not, that's Javonte. I want Jamal Williams. Let me find it. Jamal Williams is 6,100. So they priced him up a little bit, but they did not price him up enough. I like that DraftKings has been aggressive with pricing up backups. You know, RB2s, especially those 40% guys who are getting some of the usage. Jamal, before the shoulder sprain, has been their inside the 5 guy. He's their short yardage back. He's their pounder. He's the guy that they're using and has touchdown upside. Now you're telling me that he's going to take over the entire role, and when he was in Green Bay was the pass catching back, and you know that they're going to throw it to their running back because that's what they utilize DeAndre Swift for. It is very likely that they go to a multi-back standpoint and rotate another back in here, but Jamal Williams does project to get 65 to 75% of the snaps and touches at running back for the Lions, who are playing at home and favored by 6.5 in a game with a total of 50 against the Seattle Seahawks that we just saw Cordero Patterson run completely over. So there's absolutely no way that I'm not playing Jamal Williams in this lineup, and everybody else is probably thinking the same thing. And then we have another is that even a word? Do you even English, streamer? David Montgomery, questionable for this week with knee and ankle injuries. They are speculating that it is a high ankle sprain. We have seen high ankle sprains take running backs out of work for a month plus, which now means that we have another running back in a next man up situation going up against the New York Giants and is 5,700. Thankfully, these running backs are not 4K, which would totally break the slate. I like that they priced him up a little bit, but this offense is not going to operate through the air. It's just not. The Bears have like 23 completed passes through 3 weeks. This is what happens when you don't invest around your young quarterback with pass catchers that can make a difference and offensive linemen that can make their job easier. You get the Bears in 2022. Khalil Herbert, though, is going to get all the work. Was extremely efficient last week against Houston, as we predicted their running backs would be. Herbert was a 0 RB candidate all along, was going to get like 40% of the work. Now he's going to be thrust into like 75% of the work at 5,700. Touches are king. We have 3,300 now left for a defense. You can do pretty much whatever you want, and look how much we jammed into this spot. So like getting a defense, plug whatever you want. You can go with the Bills, you can go with the Giants, you can go Colts against Tennessee, sure. Whatever you want at defense. Our first look lineup: Jalen Hurts, Jamal Williams, Khalil Herbert, Devonta Smith, Devontae Smith, Zay Jones, Gabriel Davis, Dallas Goedert, Bateman, and the Colts defense. Good luck to you guys this week. Look out for another one right there.
He's a legend.